What's going on, everyone? Welcome into an at-home edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. I'm in a hotel in Columbus, getting ready for Tennessee, Ohio State, which we'll talk about a little bit towards the end. But I want to talk about the comments made by Myles Garrett yesterday because it sounded like a threat that if the Browns don't get their act together, he may not want to be here for his entire career. And it sounds that way because I think it is kind of a threat. The more I've kind of read over it and just read what other people thought when he said those comments, I wouldn't say my concern level has skyrocketed, but when I first saw that, I was like, all right, he just says he wants a plan, so the Browns are going to give him a plan, and whether that plan works or not, we'll see. But I'm starting to think that maybe Myles Garrett's having that moment of like, whoa, when I was drafted first overall 2017, that was the last year of Joe Thomas. He was loyal to this franchise and he got nothing out of it. And now I'm turning 29 in a few days. Am I about to be the next Joe Thomas? Like, that might not be the career path I want. So let's first start by going over what Myles Garrett said, and then I'll give you more of my kind of reaction to it. So, quote, I'm not trying to rebuild. I'm trying to win right now. I want that to be apparent when the season's over and we have those discussions. I want them to be able to illuminate that for me, illustrate that for me, so that that can be something I can see in the near future, because that's all we want to do. I want to stay loyal to a team that shows loyalty to me and faith in me by drafting me, but we have to do at the end of the day what's best for us. Another thing that was kind of juicy, by the way, I'll add right now, is when he talked about the quarterback plan of the future, he said whether that's DTR or someone else. He didn't mention Deshaun Watson. So my reaction to this whole thing is that, one, HBO is there, so the cameras are there, and I think Garrett's kind of taking advantage of that to say, here's a message to the front office. If you think that you guys can just meddle around and not put together a winning plan and start a rebuild, I'm not going to sit by like a good soldier and be happy to be a part of another 0-16 season and then a 1-15 season for the first the first 2 years of my career. No, Garrett is sending a message pretty loud and clear that when the season's over and they have their end of the year kind of performance review, exit interviews with the players, Garrett's exit interview is going to go like this. Hey, we're not here to talk about my play because I played outstanding this year, which he did. We're here to talk about what plan you guys have to get us back into the playoffs like last season, because I'm not going to sit around here if your plan is to tank for Arch Manning, which I wouldn't be shocked if that's what Jimmy Haslam wants to do. Obviously, Arch Manning, nephew of Peyton Manning, Jimmy Haslam, go Vols, Tennessee guy, so you can kind of connect the dots of what if that's his grand plan after all. And I don't know if Myles Garrett is on board with that, and maybe he is. Maybe they'll tell him this is the plan. We're going to go out and get a bridge quarterback like Jacoby Brissett. We're going to try and compete, but our target is going to be Arch Manning or another quarterback in the 2026 draft class, because the 2025 draft class does not have a lot of great options. So I've got no doubt the Browns are going to give him a plan. Like the Browns, sure, they haven't had a lot of success with the plans they've made at times, like Deshaun Watson specifically, but give them credit. They at least do make plans. Like they're at least playing, like they're at least trying, meaning there are a lot of teams out there that just don't put together a plan and just kind of wing it and hope for the best with the current combination of coach, quarterback, GM. No, the Browns definitely, they make plans. They're not all good plans, but they do make plans. Like Andrew Berry has always had a plan in mind and an envisionment, and he's not just putting together a roster and just going, all right, well, let's see what happens. So whether Garrett likes that plan or not is remain to be seen. But I know that the Browns will give him a plan. Now, when it comes to an Arch Manning or maybe a quarterback from that 2026 draft class like Nico from Tennessee, something that Jason Lloyd from The Athletic pointed out in his article about this whole thing that I found really intriguing is as the Browns begin their conquest, or as Andrew Berry would probably call it, their odyssey for their next new stadium, they're going to sell a lot of PSLs. Right? That's personal seat license. If you don't know what that is, basically you spend, say, $10,000 for the right to purchase tickets, right? You spend $10,000, and now you have the opportunity to purchase season tickets. It's stupid, it's dumb, but it's the way it works when teams build new stadiums. And I don't know how many people for a 67,000 person stadium are going to spend 10 to 20 to 30, depending on which section, what row, 50-yard line or not, thousands of dollars for a PSL for a team that will have no plan of a franchise quarterback in the future. That's going to be a tough sell. So Jimmy Haslam, from a financial standpoint, definitely can see the writing on the wall of we have to get our act together or we're about to spend $1 billion and no one's going to pay what we need to kind of recoup some of the immediate cash, which is tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, think about $10, $20, $30,000 per seat for 67,000 seats. That's where their moneymaker is, to recoup some of the immediate cash, because hot dog and beer sales are not going to, fill these billionaires' pockets quick enough. So that's definitely a concern for the Browns if they don't put together an immediate quarterback plan. And we spent all this time talking about an immediate quarterback plan and haven't even said the words Deshaun Watson yet, because it definitely feels like people inside Berea and, just across the city are accepting that Deshaun Watson's time with the Browns is done. I don't want to say completely done because he is under contract. They can't really get out of his contract this year. They could release him and they would take on I don't even want to say how big of a number it is, well over $100 million dead cap hit, which would be about, rough math, 40% of the salary cap. So not really manageable, I would say. My guess is that Watson's going to rehab from his Achilles. They're going to sign a guy like Jacoby Brissett. I really doubt they bring back Jameis Winston after benching him. Maybe Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, when he gets inevitably released by the Falcons, he'll have a $27.5 million base salary. But if the Browns sign him for the vet min, which Cousins will do just like Russell Wilson did, and that's a little under $2 million, the remaining balance of that $27.5 million base salary goes to Atlanta. So maybe Kirk Cousins comes to the Browns, although have you guys seen what he's looked like the last couple of weeks? 1 touchdown to 9 interceptions in his last 5 games. I don't think that's any better quarterback play than what the Browns have on their current roster. But they definitely have to sign someone, just because Watson, with his Achilles injury, is likely not going to be able to run drills during OTAs and minicamp. So they have to put together some functioning quarterback to at least help the receivers, the running backs, the offensive line. So a lot up in the air, but Garrett is sending a message, and he is someone that when speaks you listen to, right? He carries a booming voice in that locker room. He's a leader on this team, and he's an intelligent guy that picks his words, wisely and precisely. He doesn't just kind of run in front of the mic, a little bit like Brandon Graham for the Eagles. I'm just saying that, I don't think A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are buddies like they used to. Like, that's not really Garrett's style. Like, when he speaks, he's got a message in mind. So he is sending something to the ownership in the front office right now of, if I don't get a good plan, I don't want to say the T word, but trade. The Browns might look at it like, well, we can get a lot of assets, and we need a lot of assets to get a good quarterback, but my issue is this is not the draft class to get a lot of assets. Ignore the quarterback standpoint for a moment here. This is not a draft class that is filled with no doubt first-round talent. If you don't know how the draft kind of works, which unfortunately Browns fans do all do well, usually there's about 20 players with a first-round grade, meaning no matter what the year is, these guys would go round 1. This year it's probably closer to 15. So do you really want a bunch of picks in a draft class that's just not all that great? The draft is unknown, so maybe we'll look back and go, how could we say this was a bad draft class? But I didn't think the Kenny Pickett draft class was all that great, and look at that right now. It's kind of aging pretty well. All right, before we get on out of here, just a couple of thoughts on the big game from the shoe tonight, Tennessee, Ohio State. My fear for Buckeyes fans is they are going to walk back into what they went through with Michigan a few weeks ago, because the perception of Tennessee under Josh Heupel the last couple of years is, hey, this is an offense that loves to air raid, throw it deep, and get vertical. They don't really have the receiving core for that, and Nico is a redshirt freshman, so they're not going to put him in that position. And all year, the strategy has been, we're going to run the football with Dylan Sampson, and we're going to lean on our incredible defensive line. It's basically what Michigan's forte was, and that's what beat Ohio State. So, Buckeyes fans, I think it's going to be, I don't want to jinx it, but it's going to be a good game. But I don't think you guys are going to be walking out with a big smile on your face.